Hi there, I'm Beck. Back for my second vlog, I guess. I'm not really sure if I should call these episodes or I don't know. Anyway, I'm back. For those of you that missed my first one, as I said, I'm Beck. I currently work for a service provider who provides service within the NDIS framework. I mainly focus on mental health. That's my area of expertise, I guess. And I'm also a foster carer. The purpose of me doing these vlogs, or this vlog, is to share some of my experiences and learnings from working in the sector, from being a carer, and hopefully to pass some of that on so that other people can learn from my experiences. So let's get into it. So if you haven't seen my first vlog, again, I'll work the language out as we go along. I spoke a bit around how fear can impact the way that services are provided to people with mental illnesses within NDIS. And I had some feedback around that, that maybe I needed to provide a bit more information around how do I actually manage some of the things that I talked about, which I think was a really good point, because I told this story, but I didn't really provide any insight or learnings, I guess, from my part that might help somebody else. So that's what I'm going to do today. I've got some questions that people thought might be good if I answer. So I'm just really going to run through those questions for today. So just so that it keeps me on track a little bit, I guess, because I do get off track sometimes. The other thing is that my husband told me I say a lot, and I said to him, yes, I know. Thanks for the feedback. I do know I say a lot. It is what it is. I would much prefer to be getting my information out to you in the best way that I know how, rather than concentrating too much on my language at this point. So I hope that you're okay with that. If not, I guess this maybe isn't the vlog for you, or maybe you could just try and zone out when I'm umming a lot all the time. All right, let's jump into the first kind of question or idea that I'd like to kind of delve into today. And the question I was asked is, how do I deal with feeling discouraged in a broken system? And I guess the first thing I want to say is I don't actually feel that I work in a broken system when it comes to NDIS. I used to feel like that, and I did for probably about 18 months when it first rolled out fully into Queensland. The reason I don't anymore feel like I'm working in a broken system is because I started listening to lots of podcasts around NDIS and experts within NDIS, and people who were making changes and doing really good things as either individuals or organisations, CEOs, whatever. And one of the things that I kept really picking up from those was that this is actually the biggest social change that we have ever had in this country. And to think that we were going to get it right, and to think that it would roll out and be peachy and perfect, was really very unrealistic from all fronts, I think. I now take the view that somebody very, very courageous, or a group of very, very courageous people, decided that we could no longer work within a system that was 30 years old. That's fair. That's really fair to say. I would hope that as a society that we have shifted and changed, and research has come out, and studies have been done that show that what we were doing was not the best that we could be doing. And so a really bold move was made to go, we're going to scrap all of that, and we're pretty much going to start again. There's been lots and lots and lots and lots of really shitty things that have happened through that process. And there's been lots and lots and lots and lots of really good things that have happened through that process. I now choose to look at this we are in the very early stages of rolling out, I guess, a new process. And if I think about rolling out a process at work, for example, the plan, the idea, it never ever stays as the way it was when you first started talking about it, or even from that first day of implementation. It changes the whole entire time. And the one thing I do want to say about NDIS is they are hearing feedback, and they are trying to come up with solutions to the feedback that they're hearing. And to give you an example of that, NDIS are going to be introducing individual assessments, and I'll probably do a whole separate vlog on individual assessments, but this is their response to data that showed people in lower socioeconomic areas were not getting the same amount of funding as people in higher socioeconomic areas. NDIS could have just taken that information and covered it up a little bit and gone, you know what, fuck you guys. This is what it is. This is what we've got, and this is what we're going to go with. They haven't done that. They've gone, we hear your feedback, we can see the data, and here's how we think we can fix that. Whether this works or not, I don't know. I don't have a magic ball to say whether it will or not. But I think the key that I'm trying to put across here is that they're willing to hear and they're willing to try something different. People are talking about the fact that we are going from 1 year plans to 2 year plans or 3 year plans or whatever, and that's basically individualized block funding. Maybe it is. Isn't that still progressive compared to block funding, which was, here's a bunch of money for that house and you as a service provider work out how you're going to spend that money. This way people still get individualized support. We just don't have to go to reviews every 12 months. So in terms of working in a broken system, I don't feel like I work in a broken system, and for all of those reasons I just talked about. I do feel discouraged at times, probably realistically on a daily basis. There's something that will happen that you know, I could choose to really dwell on and feel discouraged about. And I used to, you know, I'll be really honest, probably 3-4 years ago, I would have dwelled on things and let them impact on my day, my week, my weekends. I now choose to see those things as an opportunity for me to maybe educate somebody, an opportunity for me to provide guidance, an opportunity for me to affect change. Don't get me wrong, I still might have a hissy fit about it first, and I'm pretty sure that my boss and my husband, Tony, could very much attest to the fact that I'd have hissy fits. But it comes back to how I choose to think about it and what I choose to do with that roadblock or that barrier. Probably the thing, to be really honest, that I get most discouraged about is when my staff, no, they're not my staff, but when staff just aren't getting the whole person-led approach, or person-centered approach. And the reason that discourages me more than working in a broken system is that staff on the ground, support workers, have the biggest impact on people receiving services. And if I link this back to fear in service provision, when staff sit with fear, when staff sit with being worried about risk, being worried about protecting their own ass, that is when we start to see what I believe is really shitty service delivery, because we are wrapping people up in cotton wool and we're not providing them opportunities to learn, grow, fail, and succeed. So not sure if I hope that answers that question. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But anyway, that's what I've got on that one. The next one is how I feel about navigating tense protocols. That's a very good question. Again, it depends on how I choose to look at it. It really comes down to my choice on whether I'm going to allow protocols to get on top of me or whether I'm going to do everything I can to work around them, work within them, but right on the edge of them. And how am I going to do that so that people are safe? And so I think if I link that back to, or think about that in terms of when fear gets in the way of providing good services, lots of our protocols that we work towards are in place because of fear. And I'm not saying that we don't need protocols, because we do. We have to protect. Protect is not the right word. We have to make sure that we have things in place so that every single person within NDIS is not being taken advantage of, that they are not being neglected, abused, all of those things. I think what happens and what I see happens, and if I link it back to what I was talking about last time with Bob, is we allow those fears and those protocols to become our reason not to. They become a barrier, and instead of working out how do I work within this barrier, how do I get over it, how do I go around it, how do I go under it, whatever, we go, that's a barrier, and so we can't move. We're stuck here now. And so the way that I work through that stuff, I guess, is I really sit right on the edge of any and every process I can think of. And to give you an example of that, that's not going to get me in trouble. If I think about Bob, I'll link this back to Bob. And so with Bob, ultimately as a service provider, right now we're responsible for his medication, for example. And so if he was staying away for nights on end, we had no control or no knowledge over whether or not he took his medication. And so one of the ways that we got around that was to have check-ins throughout the time he wasn't there, to remind him to take his medication, or just to check in. Did you remember to take your morning medication? He has a right to decline to take his medication, just like whether he's at home or whether he's out and about. He can choose not to take his medication. I guess for us it was really a prompt for him. We moved to, I guess, more of a we moved out of an administration kind of role, as in here's your medication for you to take, to a prompting process. And when he came home each time, we'd kind of have a look through and see how he'd gone with taking his medication, and was there any, did he miss any? Did he want to talk about how come they were missed? Blah, 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 blah. He didn't miss any, just for the record. He didn't actually miss any medication while he wasn't at home. He took them, as far as we know. I'm very aware that maybe he flushed them down the toilet. I don't know. So that's one of the ways that I guess we sat right on the edge. And that, I guess, when I say that process was put in place at the beginning, and if that didn't work, then we would have to look at something else. So if we realised after the first couple of times that Bob went and stayed away, that either he wasn't taking his medication with him, or when he wasn't taking it, and he wasn't taking it for 2 or 3 days at a time, we would have to go back to that and have a look at it and go, okay, so that part of it's not quite working. What can we do to shift that part of this process, rather than saying, well, he's not taking his medication so he can't go? There are definitely other ways that we could tackle that issue or that barrier if there was one. And I think that's part of the idea or that process that I go through myself in navigating protocols is, all right, what's the barrier and how do we get around it or over it or under it? Sometimes we break through it, to be honest, but it's not about doing the wrong thing, and it's not about breaking that protocol. It is about understanding why it's there, but not allowing it to, as I say, be the barrier or be the reason not to do something. And it might mean that a person needs to do different things to be able to move through each barrier or process that comes up. For example, if I think about a story that I've heard a few times, not one of mine, but about a gentleman who had cerebral palsy, who wanted to jump out of an aeroplane. What's that called? Parachute out of an aeroplane. And he was told by the service provider, no. And he kind of went, yeah, fuck you, I'm doing it anyway. And so for him, there was a process that he had to go through, which included, I think it was about 12 months worth of physio to get his body to a point where it would be able to survive, I guess, jumping out of a plane. So the answer for him wasn't no, it was, how do we do that? And what are the things that we need to assist you with to overcome the barriers that are being put in front of you? He could have turned around and gone, I'm not doing that work. And if he turns around and says that, then he's obviously not that invested in wanting to jump out of a plane. And realistically, guys, that's no different for you and I. There's nothing that we get that's handed to us on a silver platter. There's nothing, well, there hasn't been for me, that I haven't, as an adult, needed to work for, put energy into, train for, learn things from, fail at, and pick myself up. And it's the same for the people we support. Again, hopefully that answers that question. I guess the takeaway really is that, yes, we have what you could call tense protocols. It's not about seeing that as a barrier. It's not about seeing those as roadblocks. It's about seeing them, understanding them, and then working out, how do I fit service delivery to the individual that I'm supporting without necessarily breaking these ideas. And look, for me, I'm really lucky. I work in a fairly large organisation, and I have a team of people who I can run things by, and I do that a lot. There is very rarely a decision that I make that I haven't run by somebody else when it's, teetering on the edge of, am I breaking a rule here? Am I pushing a boundary here? And that's not about me asking permission. I don't think I've had to ask permission to do something for a really long time now. It's more about saying, here's my thought pattern, here's how I want to do this. What have I forgotten, if anything? Is this going to put the organisation at risk as well? And if it is, can you help me work out how to mitigate some of those risks? So I hope that answers that question. How the next question and the last one that I'll answer for today is, how do I manage my responsibilities when I feel discouraged? That's a good question. Some days I do that really well, and some days I don't always do that well. I have learnt over time to use self-care. Last week, I took a day off because I was over it. I was exhausted. I felt like I was fighting the same battle again. new person, but same scenario, same battle. And I just went, I don't have this in me today. And so instead of going into work and basically being a bitch to people and yelling at people, I took the time to take a step back and reflect for myself on what am I actually pissed off about here? What am I actually discouraged about here? And how do I change that thinking? How do I change that idea? And what it actually turned out to be in this particular instance was my ego. My ego was in the way of letting other people make decisions and do things that I didn't necessarily agree with, but it wouldn't have put anybody at harm for them to go down the path that they were going down, I guess. So that's one of the ways is to really don't worry about taking a day out every now and again. Don't do it on a weekly, but it is okay to take a day out and actually think for yourself, where am I at? What's happening? Is this working? Why is it not working? Because ultimately, guys, you feel the way you feel because of something that's happening in you, not because of what's happening outside of you. My boss says to me all the time, Beck, I want you to keep zigging when everybody else is zagging. And that is hard. That is not an easy thing to do, especially when, if you're somebody like me and you want everyone to like you, that can be, it is very, very difficult at times to continue to be on that particular path. And so taking a day out to refill my cup, as people say, to regather where I'm at, to remember how courageous I am, and that I'm doing this not really for me. It's for all of those other people who, like Bob, wouldn't or don't have the opportunity to have a fulfilling life. They're just existing. I think one of the other ways to manage that idea of feeling discouraged at times is surround yourself with people who will be honest but share your values. I don't mean that they say yes to everything that you think and say, but they fundamentally share your values and will be a support for you when you have been what sometimes feels like being kicked in the guts again and again and again. I am very selective around my teams, and to give you an example of that, it has taken me 8 months to build a team for one person that we're supporting because I wouldn't settle for anything less than what I knew he needed. That created tension between myself and recruitment more than once. But I knew from my experience, from this person had been with us, with our service for 18 months, and I knew that if we don't do this the right way, the person that will actually be impacted the most is the person that we're supposed to be providing service to. So I have to make this happen the way it needs to happen. And so having people around me who understood that and supported that and could remind me of that on the days where I was going, oh man, maybe I just need to put my hands up and take whoever applies next. Saying to me, no, you know what you're doing. Remember why you're doing this. Really, really, really helps. Back to my point about being selective about teams. I am selective about my teams. I'm very selective about who I put into any service leader or team leader roles within that sit under me. And again, it's not about finding people that will say yes. I don't want people who will say yes to anything and everything I say. I want people who are willing to zag when everyone else is zigging. I want people who are going to say no to me sometimes and go, well, actually, no, this is a better option for the person that we're supporting. I want people who share my values and the values of the organisation, which are basically around people have rights and to live the same life that you and I are living. And if they don't have those same values, we're going to fight from day dot. We're not going to be on the same page ever. And I surround myself with people who don't always agree with me. Because it's the people that don't agree with me that make me have to think harder, differently, bigger. If everybody just said yes, if everybody was just a yes man, I would never grow. My teams would never grow. We would never push ourselves outside of our comfort zones, my comfort zone, the organisation's comfort zone. And so, yeah, I guess to kind of consolidate all of that, it's thinking about how you're thinking about a situation when you feel discouraged. It's taking some time out. Take a day, half a day, whatever it is that you need. Think about, reflect, be reflective, and surround yourself with people who are, I guess, your champions. And that goes both ways. You need to be their champion as well, because they are going to have days where they're discouraged. They're going to have days where they need somebody to help prop them up. So surrounding yourself with people like that will, without a doubt, give you that ongoing support and ongoing push to zig when everyone else is zagging, to push through the fear, to not allow other people's fear to get in the way of what I think for me personally is this like gut feeling to go, this is what needs to happen. And I can't always explain that, which makes it really difficult, I think, for other people when I'm trying to say, yes, we've got to do this, and I can't really explain why. There's this gut feeling that just says this, I just know this is the right thing for us to be doing. Having people that understand that. And I think the other thing is, just one more thing, is you have to prove yourself. And what I mean by that is you have to build trust, and building trust comes down to doing what you say you're going to do. So if you're going to put in a process, if you're going to say Bob's going to go to whatever, and your manager or NDIS or somebody says to you, well, you need to do these things, do them. The first 10 times, however long it takes, until people can see that you are trustworthy and they can start to trust your judgment. Don't say, yes, I've done that, and then you haven't done it and things go pear-shaped and they come back to you and go, well, that's because you didn't do blah. That's because you didn't put in a process for checking in on the BGLs. That's because you didn't whatever. Don't allow those things to actually get in the way. Just do them, suck it up, do them, whatever, move on, do them to the best of your ability, sign them off and move on so that you can actually concentrate on good service delivery. I hope that that's kind of given you a little bit more of an in-depth, I guess, idea around, that kind of story I spoke about last week in terms of having to push through fear and some of the ways that I push through, I guess, fear or being discouraged. Not sure. I guess, we'll see. Please feel free to give me some comments, write some comments. I'd love to hear what you're getting out of these, if anything. Please subscribe to my vlog. God, I've got to find a better word for that. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys all in a week or so. If you've got any particular topics that you might like to hear about, or any particular questions, put them into the comments, and I can definitely answer those over the coming weeks. All right, awesome. Thanks, guys.